NRI Wellness. We bring you the latest in health and nutrition information, create customized nutrition programs, and walk you through the process to ensure your success. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to the 10 Dimensions of Wellness. I am your host, the owner of NRI Wellness, Chef Cammie Red, and I'm excited about another podcast host that we have today. Our guest today is Dr. Gail. There's so much information to be learned and to be captured on today's podcast. I'm going to start with the first thing, the most recent thing, and we're just going to work our way through Dr. Gail's resume. The most recent thing that she has going on is her latest project is a book. It's called Wisdom from Queens. It's the volume 3 of, I'm guessing, a lot of women have come together to speak about their years of knowledge. And this was just released on August 15th. Why don't you tell us a little bit more about it?
Hello. Thank you, Cammie, for having me. Yes, I'm excited. My latest project is co-author of a book, Wisdom from Queens, Volume 3. And the reason I'm excited is that I am, and you can't see it, but I'm 65 years young. And Wisdom from Queens this is the third in the series, a young lady by the name of Melinda Rackley. And I want to give a shout out to Melinda. Each year she selects 5 women to write a chapter in a book. And each year it's a different theme. The first year was relationship revelations. Last year was single moms writing, and the theme was letters for our daughters and lessons for our daughters and letters to our sons. And this year she selected women, given everything that we're seeing now, who had lived some experiences. And so 5 of us were selected. And the theme this year was choices, challenges, and change. And so
that's powerful.
Yes. Choices, challenges, and change. And so we each wrote a chapter about the challenges we've had in our life and how we approached, prevailed, maneuvered to still have successful careers. And it was quite by accident. I was talking to Melinda, and she owns Rack House Publishing. Shout out to her and her company. And I mentioned something about what we're seeing now is deja vu and having lived with coming through paper bag tests. Paper bag test, what is that? I don't know, Cammie, have you heard about that?
Yes, see, I'm from Georgia, born and raised in the South. So, you know, that right there, and then I'm a little fair-skinned, so I grew up in an age of the 80s when we were coming off the back of that sort of type situation, but to be completely honest, I don't think we are actually over it at all.
No, we're still not.
We still got it.
Right. So, you know, and that intrigued her to know someone who had actually came through or lived through rural segregated South, and then come through segregation into desegregation and integration. I grew up being colored to Negro to Black to African American. So I've been there, done that. So what we're seeing now with the racial profiling and sex discrimination, gender discrimination, and racial unrest, it's almost like I lived through that. So that is what I write about in my book, is growing up. Now, here's the interesting thing. I didn't know how poor we was because we grew up in the rural South in a segregated community where everybody took care of everybody.
Yeah, no, I understand that, because in the South, it's a different type of upbringing. Like, even in my day and age with my grandmother, I don't think we lacked for anything because our entire neighborhood sort of took care of each other. All the kids, like if you didn't have something at your house, you could go to somebody else's house to get it.
Amen. Exactly. We were a neighborhood in the community, and we raised our own food, and everybody shared. And like you said, if someone was going to the store, we would play on the street, and they would just say, "Hey, I'm going to the store. Watch our kids." And so we ran up and down the road all day long and played, and everybody looked out for everybody. And so we had that environment, and that's one of the things, as we talk a little more, that's lacking nowadays. But that we have some suggestions on how people can create their own community so that they have that support. The nuggets, the wisdom that we share in our book is how you can create your own community in this day of being, you know, some people don't even know who their neighbor is.
Yes, that's what I was going to say. A lot of us, I mean, and I'm not even going to count myself out. We move into neighborhoods and we don't get to know the people that live around us. That's a little bit dangerous. Especially with, what's going on. I feel like we do need to get back to the days of community living where, where we know everyone that lives on the street with us, and at least once a week we have some type of community event that brings everyone out and we socialize and get together. Even back in the day, I do remember as a little girl, my grandmother had what was called social clubs. Those were, community based as well.
Right. And we had them too. And in fact, we've started one now that I'm grown. We've gotten together and we will play this fun game every 2 weeks, because we as women, we were feeling isolated. So we started doing that, created our own social club. And that's one of the tips we share in the book, is that you have to make it yourself. You can't rely on other people. You have to recognize what your needs are. Yeah, absolutely.
Now, I want to talk about the book more, and we'll wrap up at the end with a little bit more information about the book. But let's talk about you, Dr. Gail. Let's talk about your wisdom, your experience. Tell everybody just a little bit personally about you, where you come from, your background in health and wellness, your background in the Army, all the things you've seen over your lifespan. Share that wisdom with us.
Well, and it's interesting. I'll tell everybody, you all have a story, because I didn't think I had a story. I was this little colored girl from rural South Louisiana, dark skin, back then they said nappy hair, but, natural hair. And I was always a book smart. Now I'm from Louisiana, but I cannot cook. But if it was a book, I was an avid
Wait a minute.
reader.
Wait a minute.
Oh, wait a minute. I know people are always asking me, can you make some info? And I'm like,
wait a minute. This is a first. No, you know what? No, it's not. I got a girlfriend that I've been friends with for almost 20 years. She's from Louisiana too. She can cook, but she can't cook. She can do, like she can throw some chicken on the George Foreman grill, some stuff like that. Yeah. but she ain't making no gumbo and no etouffee. She not doing any of that.
No, because from about the age of 12 or so, I was always an avid reader, and my first job was in the library. So, I would leave school and then go to the library. So I was this avid reader, while my other sisters and brothers would be home and around my mom, and they would assist with making dinner and stuff. Well, by the time I got from working in the library, dinner was ready. And then I graduated and went on to college. So I was never learned to cook. And then my brain is, because in Louisiana, they say take a little pinch of this, a little bit of that. What is a little bit? What is a pinch? I'm an exact science person, this math person. Is that a spoon or two? And you just let it cook. And so I was never able I never learned to cook. So the joke in my family, however, is through the years, I'm known for my hors d'oeuvres and my gourmet punch. That's my contribution to it. And my brother grandson Dean said gourmet punch because I'll take apple juice and add some Sprite and some pineapple slices, and so that's my gourmet punch.
That's okay. That's okay. But listen, it's a recipe. You put it together. Okay, you created. That's your gourmet punch. Okay, that's your signature juice. Okay, so at your events, make sure when they say, what are we serving, have your signature juice in a little champagne glass.
Yes.
Say, this is my signature juice, okay?
So my family would always say, if we were at somebody's house and they'd say, okay, now you're done, get out of the way so we can come in and cook. So my sisters, Glenda and Carlotta, they come up with some recipes, so they're the creative ones. So I grew up in that environment where I was right on the cusp, because at 8th grade, it was a segregated community, so you go to an all-black elementary school, and then you go to the all-black high school. Well, this in '64, when the Civil Rights Act came along, and the movement to desegregate at that time, our 8th grade class, instead of going to the high school, we were bused to the all-white high school. So that was sort of traumatic, because the people in that community did not want us at that high school.
No, they didn't.
There were people there to stand around to make sure that we got there safely. People were calling us names as we walked up and down the hallway. It was some teachers who were, overtly, I guess, trying to discriminate and impact our grades, et cetera, things that they were doing. So it was really tough, but we were lucky that we had some African-American teachers who came over from the other high school to be there to be a buffer for us. And so I still communicate in my class. When we have our class reunions, we still reach out to like Miss Hawkins, Mr. Coit, Miss Epps, Miss Williams, and we still include them because they made the difference and made sure that we were able to get through.
Wow. So that's great that you guys can they're still around.
Right. Many of them are still around, and we still remember them being there. And so we had the community behind us and encouraging us. And once we got to that school, because, we had been told, being Black, that we weren't as good, we weren't as smart, we weren't this, that, and the other, based on our skin color. And then we got there and found out, wait a minute, we're just as intelligent as everybody else here. In fact, smarter than others.
I was just going to say, if not smarter.
And so the lesson that I talk about in my book is never let anybody characterize you or put you in a box. You work to your full potential, whatever that is, whatever gift God has given you, you work to your full potential and be good at that, and never let anyone else define you. That was the lesson that I learned from coming through that 4 years in that environment.
It's amazing that you say that, because that's actually been the theme of my last few shows, believe it or not. But my last few shows have been with African-American business women. And that has been what we have been, I guess, stressing to each other. And I never realized until your interview now just how much trauma we have actually lived through over the years, and how a lot of this stuff is generational, how some of this stuff the trauma is not so much so what's on the outside, it's what's been inflicted on us on the inside. Yeah, it's the mentality, and it's Black women. Like, we have overcome so much to get to a point of just getting a little bit of respect for what we do. So just listening to you and just hearing you say that, someone who has lived through as much as you have lived through, and then just thinking about all of the women who I've interviewed as of recently and having them say the same thing, and that resonating with all of us because of what we've been through and where we've come from.
Right. And for me and some of my best friends, Cynthia August and Cynthia Metz, we were able to move forward and be active in the activities that were there. So they tried to throw up roadblocks, but we continue to work through. And I do want to say, not only for women, but our men. And I was talking recently to a classmate, Donald Grimm, and he said, because we were talking about the class reunion, he said, I don't know if I'm going to come. Y'all enjoyed high school, but it was rough for me. And I said, what do you mean? And he said, he was an athlete, star basketball player. And when they sent him there, they wouldn't let him play. So a lot of our African-American men missed opportunities because they weren't allowed to realize their full potential. That, Gail, some days we had to fight almost every day over at that school. Now, see, I didn't learn this till 50 years later, because we were fighting our battles. And he was destined to be a great basketball player, but didn't because of opportunities that weren't allowed because of what happened.
That
So,
breaks my heart.
so
I mean,
this stuff impacts
yeah,
us in a number of ways. Right, right.
yeah. Imagine how many men are actually out there living on the street who were just kept from realizing their full potential because of the color of their skin. That's
Right.
super sad. Like, that's sad that we live in a world where that actually exists.
Right. And Donald Grimm, I shout out to my brother, he's doing well now. But until we had that discussion, and like we're sharing now, I had no idea.
Wow.
So we've been able to talk about, and then going from high school, when we had an opportunity, and I want to shout out to Ms. Alma Ina, we had counselors who were there saying, this opportunity is at this college. Because remember, we're going into desegregation. Colleges are opening up. Careers are opening up. My daughter asked the other day when we were talking about since the book, she said, well, my mom was a housekeeper. And my daughter saw the help and got excited about that. And I'm like, I lived that. My mom was a housekeeper. Her mom was a housekeeper. And my great-grandmother was still working the fields. So we weren't that far removed from slavery.
Yeah, my grandmother was a housekeeper.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I grew up around that. As a matter of fact, my grandmother had been a housekeeper for majority of her life.
Exactly. That was the only opportunity. So as I talk about my choice to go to college, because she said, well, what choice did my mom, her grandmother have? And I said, nothing. It was to be a housekeeper. That was it. So when I had a chance to go to college, Ms. Ina made sure she presented a variety of colleges that were giving scholarships. Because my family was poor, I was the oldest of 8 kids. They didn't have money to send me to college. So Miss Ina, being a counselor, some of the young men, Morgan Thomas and Larry DeLone, told them about engineering schools at opportunities. And they are now great engineers with companies doing great. So again, we had people that were there to look out for us and direct us. I ended up going to Centenary College. I had never heard of that. It's a Methodist college in North Louisiana in Shreveport. She knew my family was Methodist. By gearing me and directing me to that college, I was able to get scholarships and able to go to college. And I remember how excited the community was that they helped my mom and stepdad load up the car, and my cousins came over and tied my suitcases on top of the station wagon. And everybody gave $5, $10 for gas. And I get emotional because we didn't have the means, but the community,
though, yeah,
the community came together. And I remember one. Okay, and so when it was time to go to college, Miss Ina was very helpful in directing us to colleges that were opening their doors because we're going through desegregation and they're trying to increase their minority enrollment. And so Centenary College was in Shreveport, Louisiana. I'd never heard of this college. And it was a Methodist-based college. With my family being Methodist, she realized that I could get a scholarship. And so that was what enabled me to be able to go to college. And so the community got together. My cousins came over and helped my stepfather and my mom tie my suitcases to the top of the station, our old station wagon. And people came and gave us $5 and $10 to help for gas. And it was funny because, back then ladies used to keep their money in their bra. So people were coming into their bra and here, take this.
In grandmama's bank, that's what we call it.
Yeah. And off we went to North Louisiana from South Louisiana. So that's how I got to college. And that was a time of enlightenment for me because with it being a Methodist-based college and us going into desegregation, they were very accepting, and it wasn't that much of a black-white issue. So I was able to do well, plus I love books, so I was able to excel. And I thought I wanted to be a doctor. But then when I realized, and I did a couple of practicums, and I'm like, I don't really want to do this. I was really more pulled towards the social side of being, and so I majored in, I changed from biology and majored in sociology. And that's what I got my degree in there. But I enjoyed it. And when I was there, I took physics and chemistry. And this is another lesson. I took physics and chemistry and advanced algebra and all those things when I was there thinking I wanted to be a medical doctor. And I was struggling with some of it. And so they said, I went to my advisors and they said, okay, we'll put you in a study group. And so my other friends, I'm not going to a study group, you know. I went to the study group. I was the only female. I was the only person of color in the study groups. And I started acing the courses. So lesson is when someone suggests a help for you or a way, listen, because they've been there. We don't
Yes.
know everything. Some people, I don't need that. Yes, you do. If somebody, when people are on the outside looking in, it's easy to see. When you're in the middle of it, it's harder to look out and see, find solutions. So listen to
Yes.
what people are going to give you. And so I ended up acing physics and chemistry, and I was the only girl in the class. So I left centenary. And then during that summer, you know, when you graduate from college in the summer, you always try to find a job.
Yeah.
Bell South, before they became all these Verizons and Sprint, there was Bell South, which was the only Bell.
I worked for Bell South. Yeah.
Okay. So in the 70s, they were hiring people of color. So I got on as a manager because I had a degree when there were telephone operators, if you recall.
Yes.
And so I was hired as a supervisor. And so I had people who were older than me from the community who was working as operators. So everybody was excited in the community that I got hired first Black supervisor. So at the end, but however, that summer I got accepted into grad school. And it was really tough because people wanted me to stay. My family kind of wanted me to stay because I was the oldest of, like I said, 8 kids. And we could earn additional money, the money that I was bringing in, because it was good money back then. But then I had a chance to go to graduate school. And so some people in the community, especially the educators, said, you should go to graduate school because in the long run, you'll make more money. So I was really torn. And then people said, well, you're the first Black supervisor. You shouldn't leave. You shouldn't leave. You can move up in the company. But it prevailed, and I went on to graduate school. And I went to the University of Chicago. Now back then,
okay,
yeah, that was a hot school back
then.
Yeah,
like back then, to get into the University of Chicago,
right,
is an accomplishment within itself. So
right.
to be going to the grad school,
grad school at Chicago with a full scholarship.
Yes.
I had offers to Rutgers, and now that I look back, and I was like, I was getting the letters, and I'm like, okay, I don't know if I want to go to the East Coast. It snows there. But, you know, and I ended up going to Chicago really because I had relatives staying there, and I knew somebody, not knowing all this about the school and how prestigious it was. So I went to Chicago, and the 2 years there was amazing because now I went from being colored and Negro in Shreveport to Black.
Yeah.
Time of Fred Hampton with the Chicago Black Panthers.
Yes.
There had been a raid and he was killed. And so in Chicago, Black is beautiful. So when I got there with my skin color and natural hair, it was like, yay. So it was a great time for me to excel based on my knowledge and intellect and not just on my skin color. So it was really great to be in Chicago at that time and develop my mind intellectually, as well as my sense of self and not being judged just by my appearance. So it was great to be, at the University of Chicago, where I was valued because of my intellect and not just because of my appearance. So that was a great time for me. And that really helped me develop my self-esteem and become more confident in who I was.
Wow, that's really cool. Let me ask you something. What do you think it is about you that sometimes people misunderstand?
I don't have time for BS, and I can. So I kind of cut to the point, and it can be seen as being bossy, assertive, etc. But that's I have this critical, analytical mind. So that kind of turned people off. And then I guess that's why I excelled in the military.
That's what I was going to, that was what I was leading into. I knew that one was coming. I was going to say, when you said you have that no BS filter, that comes from your military background right there. Tell us about your time as a Black woman in the military and what that was like for you.
And the military was actually my second career. Prior to going into the military, I had worked in social service agencies because I ended up with a master's in social work, in social service administration. And so I worked for social service agencies in California, in Louisiana. So that was what I was doing, was working with health programs in Louisiana and out in California. And so we were back in Louisiana, and I was with the Community Health Center Association, and the opportunity came up to join the United States Public Health Service. So, commercial break. Everybody knows about the Army, Navy, Marines, Air Force, but there are actually 7 uniformed services.
Wow. You about to educate us all.
Education. So, of the 7 uniformed services, there are 4 armed, and then there are 3, which is the Coast Guard, the Public Health Service, who is led by the Surgeon General, everybody's seen him, and then NOAA, the astronauts.
Yeah.
So 7 uniformed services, and we all...
What's crazy is nobody knows about, if I'd have known about public health services when I was within the age limit to join public services, I would have joined that organization.
Right. It's all officers, it's all healthcare providers.
Yeah.
Best kept secret in the world. It's the best kept secret. And so we get all the benefits. Our uniform is just like the Navy uniform because we started providing healthcare to the sailors on the ship 300 years ago. So our uniform is just like theirs, and it has the medical caduceus. So look up United States Public Health Service. We get all the same benefits. We are a service. So I went in as an 03 officer. We have no enlisted. So for those listening, if you have a health degree, when you're watching the updates on COVID and you see the Surgeon General, who is an African-American man, Dr. Jerome Adams, when you see the Assistant Secretary for Emergency and Preparedness in that uniform that looks like a Navy uniform, that is the United States Public Health Service. There are 6,000 officers, and we're responsible for every health-related process and protocol in the United States. So anything that has to do with health, someone from the Public Health Service has something to do with it.
Wow. See, you see how you just dropped these little nuggets of information and nobody knew, like, not saying that this isn't stuff they teach in school. When they come in to have our kids do the ASVAB exams and all of that, they don't speak about a public health service. They focus on the 4 armed services. Yeah.
And right. We don't even do the ASVAB. You come in with your degree.
See? So that's information that should actually be readily available to people, that once you get a degree in anything in a health related field, there is an opportunity for you to join an service portion of the United States government that does not have anything to do with being armed.
Without being armed. We sat behind a desk. We sat behind a desk, and we're responsible. During my lifetime, I look back, I was responsible for $1 billion in grants and contracts, sitting behind a desk. And so my family, who were in the other branches, teased me because I've had 4 joints replaced. They're like, you sat behind a desk in DC. How did you, was it like you were running through the mountains of Afghanistan or anything?
Listen, sitting down actually puts a lot of wear and tear on your joints as well. I'm learning that.
Yeah.
It's the wrist, it's the knees, it's the hip joint, all of that.
That's what I've had replaced.
See, look, I called it out.
You called it out, from sitting.
Yes.
So United States Public Health Service.gov, there's kind of sort of a freeze right now, but check it out. If you're coming through with a bachelor's in nursing or master's in social work, dietitian, bioengineering. Check it out because it's a great career. We get all the benefits and we sit behind a desk. Now,
Yeah.
we do deploy. For instance, we deploy to provide higher level services. And with COVID going on right now, public health service officers will be deployed to provide, for instance, since I'm in the social work category, they deploy to provide mental health services to the frontline people who are working.
So
and who need a respite. We don't do direct service.
Yeah, it would be you all would be deployed as I guess a part of the National Guard, sort of like.
No, we're National Guard is state. We're federal. We're
service. Oh no, so they would send you guys out when they go to war or just here within the state?
Yeah, we're only CONUS. This is another good thing about our service. We never deploy anywhere else. We're only here in the U.S.
Yes.
And social workers, some of my colleagues got deployed to Arizona.
Okay.
They serve as social workers providing mental health services to doctors and nurses.
Okay, yeah, that's what I was getting to. So yes, so like during this COVID crisis, you guys were deployed to all over the United States to provide services for our frontline workers.
Right, we provide care to the frontline workers. We're not doing direct services. Every now and then you may have, but most of the time we are in a technical consultation
type of
position. So that's the nice thing about it, is that when you're working in a public health service, you may be responsible for a $100 million grant to provide maternal and child health services to kids under 2.
Okay, so you guys are the people that we write our grant proposals to.
Yes, yes. The money, so the money comes from Congress. We develop what the program should look at in requirements. We send it out, and then we get a panel of experts in that field. So again, we're supervisors. We're supervising that panel review, which is usually a contractor that we're supervising who gets the people to review your grants. But yes, go to grants.gov if you're interested in becoming a grant reviewer, and also sign up so that you can get information on grants that are going out.
Well, see, I didn't know. I'm already on grants.gov because I've actually personally submitted a couple of grants for the National Institute of Health, dealing in nutrition and diabetics in men of color. So I've done a couple of grants that way, but what I didn't know about was the grant reviewer process. I wrote that down because I'm going to go back and look into that as well. I'd be interested in doing that part, only because, I've written that's what I was going to say. I've written several grants, but I'd also learn about writing, because there are some grants that I would say I'm not comfortable with writing right now because they're for larger amounts of money. And I want to read other people's insight and see and learn more, and also connect with those people on some of these things that we are all out here trying to fight and do together.
And one of the things, my other business, Be Connected, Connected Life, BEECO. And
I'll put her website will actually be on our website. All
good
information, her links to her social media pages as well as a picture of her, and I think that's with the book, correct? So all of that it will be on our website. There'll be a full article on Dr. Gail for you guys to read and connect with her. And then we'll give it out again at the end of the podcast.
Okay. But one of the things I do is to say to you is I help individuals and companies like you look at their grant and kind of provide consultation on what you need to do to strengthen it.
Okay.
So so
I'll be contacting you.
So get on grants.gov, look at how to become a reviewer for the FDA, CDC, because once you're there, then you understand how that process works. Don't hate the player, and so don't hate the player, hate the game. But then learn the rules of the game.
I was going to say, learn how to play the game.
Learn how to play the game. So people often write grants from their emotional standpoint, but just like when you're applying for a business loan, you have to talk about return on investment. And so people want to see, what if I give you $1 of federal money, what am I going to get for that $1? And that's often where the grants that people submit fall short. So that's what my company helps you to
And
identify.
see, I'm a little bit like you when it comes to thinking. I'm super analytical with it, and one of the things I often wonder is, if am I giving too much information? Because I'm a dollar for dollar type of person when someone gives me money. So I know with the government, you have to actually be accountable for every dime that you spend. So in the grant writing process, we actually do it in the same way that we would do a business proposal or a business plan, and include the financial breakdown, so that when we're submitting the grant, not only is it explaining to the government what we're doing, on the back end, it's an outline of our program, so that when we do get these funds, we know exactly how to use it, so that we stay on top of what we need.
And here's another tip to add. We're also looking for people who are at the table. The days of lone wolves where we would give you $1 million to start something is over. So now we're giving you like 25 cents on the dollar.
Yes. Okay.
And so when you do your budget, if you want $100, you can access, if it takes $100, you can access for 25, but you got to show where that other 75 is coming from.
If you want to be seen, you have to stop being invisible to opportunity. I'm Kay Henry, licensed mental health counselor and host of Black Therapy Uncensored. Your prescription of positivity starts here.
This is 2-second nutrition tips. Today's tip is challenge yourselves to eat at least one fruit or vegetable with every meal, every day for a week. Then try it again the next week. Let me know how it goes. This has been a 2-second nutrition tip.
NRI Wellness brings you the latest health and nutrition information, creates customized nutrition programs, and walks you through the process to ensure your success.
Right. So when grants are reviewed, we're looking for people who are at the table with other organizations in the community, because the day of the lone wolf is over. Very rarely, and I shouldn't say never, will anyone give you $1 million just to start an organization, because they want to see some type of track record, et cetera. Yeah. And that's easy to do with you having your meetings with your community. In your needs assessment, you're going to find out who's out there, because you don't want to reinvent the wheel.
Yeah.
So always look to see if you have an idea, because most of the time people are starting organizations, especially nonprofits, from their heart, because it's something they're passionate about. But you have to make sure that it's not already being done. And if it's being done, what you can do to contribute that's different, to take what's being done at point A to point B.
Yes, I can attest to that. I can give an example. We started, the first grant that we did was the eradication of type 2 diabetes in men of color. And we started in South Carolina, and it wasn't for, my passion is us, but believe it or not, in South Carolina, American Indians are the highest class of people with diabetes. So, let's be real honest. Most of us living here in the United States who were born of African American descent or Black descent, or however, whatever they classify us as now, we are a mixture of both African American and American
Native
Indian.
Yeah.
So,
double whammy.
Yep, it's a double whammy. So when you think about it, I started not because, and I will be honest with you, it was a hard thing, but it was more so because of what I was seeing in seeing patients and working and trying to explain to African American men and, just Hispanic men as well about their eating situation and their eating habits, and turning their lifestyle around so they wouldn't have to be on metformin, or so they wouldn't have to be taking glucose injections, or they wouldn't have to be pricking their fingers daily. So we started that in South Carolina. And then once we did it in South Carolina, we actually realized that it wasn't just an issue in South Carolina. We did it in South Carolina, we did it in Georgia, we did it in Florida, and we did it in North Carolina as well. And it was just amazing to me how many men we were actually able to help and assist with that. But what we also had to show, we actually did a lot of the work before we submitted for our grant, because we had to submit results showing and proving that our methodology actually worked.
Right, right. And as when I was in the public health service, one of the things I did, because the funding for community health centers, and so I was detailed to Louisiana to run a community health center, actually complete getting one built. And so we would see people all the time coming in, and of course we were serving low income, underserved areas. So this was an issue. So from that standpoint, setting up a community health center, I was there 5 years. I was fortunate to go back to Louisiana because that was where I was from. My mom was there, family was there. So, and then interestingly enough, you said that my son just got out of the hospital 3 or 4 weeks ago. He wasn't feeling well, got in his truck, don't know how he got to the hospital, was lucky he got to a hospital that had no one in the emergency room. The lady, he said, put him in a wheelchair and said, I can smell it, he has diabetes. He had a blood sugar of 500, a 32-year-old. He was in the ICU on an insulin drip for 2 days. So I'm personally dealing with the issue of diabetes and health with him. So we were fortunate that he was taught to eat healthy, but being a bachelor and single, he's been eating in hotel room and ordering room service and, just doing him.
Yeah, and that's what, a lot of men will use lifestyle as a crutch for why they can't eat the way that they should be eating. But it's really an education process. Yeah. And as a mother, that I know you taught your kid the right things to eat. Like you were actually being educated on this while you were probably raising your child. So you were not just taking this in, you were taking this in and you were implementing it in your household. So right. I know that for a fact. I don't even know you, but I know that.
and you're exactly right, because when he was in the hospital, they were telling him what it was, and he ended up there through the weekend. Well, with everything going on, the weekend staff, although he was supposed to have a diabetic diet, he was seeing this stuff and he's like, I don't think I should be eating this. And he was sending me pictures. They were giving him just a regular diet, and one of them had sugar cookies. The one that night had apple pie and stuff. And he's like, can I get a salad? And I was there when he was saying, can I get a salad? And the guy said, I'm not sure why they're bringing you this, but it was easy for him once he got out the hospital to go back to what we had taught him. And I'm so proud of him now, because his sugar levels, by the time he got to a regular doctor, his sugar levels were in the 90s.
Yes. Okay.
And so they gave him insulin and metformin. This is getting too much detail, but he's now saying, I don't think I need to do that because it's going to drop my sugar too low. Yep. I said, she saw you as a black man weighing 330 pounds.
Yes.
Knew your next stop was going to be Popeye's chicken. So she gave you medication thinking your lifestyle was you weren't going to make that change.
That's exactly what the doctor did. She assumed because you were in this position, and that because she had seen many others like this and probably had seen them repeatedly
in their office back.
Yeah. Right. So she assumed.
She said, call the nurse, tell them where you are, what's happening. But and they'll make that change. So that's just to not to get off on this is, believe it or not, this is all important information, because there are people out there who do not understand how important your health really is. They don't grasp, they can't grasp the mind body connection. They don't understand that what we eat, you can't just give your body food. You actually have to give your body nutrients. You have to give your body things that are going to provide energy to your body, help you maintain, thrive, and keep going. and I'm gonna say this, and not to disclose, but a week after Dean was in, someone we know very close to us ended up in a hospital, 45-year-old, blood sugar of 1,000. And has since lost both legs. To your listening audience, this is serious. There are young people. It's not about age. It's young people and I could tell you several other people I know, their kids, 30, 35, have been diagnosed with diabetes and on insulin. And to have this young man lose both limbs at that age. So listen to what Cammie is saying. You've got to make, that switch and that choice. Choices, challenges, and change.
Yes, like people have to understand it's the choices that you make with your lifestyle. You have to challenge yourself to be better, and you got to be willing to make that change. Real simple.
Willing to make the change. And for me, if you get somebody, and here's another nugget, and you know this from what you do, get somebody who can be in your corner. I finally got a health, because with all of my aches and pains, I got a life health coach in January, because even though, do as I say, not as I do, I was still, eating, and I needed to get some of this weight off to take some of the pressure off my knees so that I would not have to have a fifth joint replacement. And so I still eat everything. I still can have a Popeye's chicken sandwich, but I don't have it with all the sides, and I don't eat from Burger King that day, and I make sure I have a salad or something else to balance it out.
It's moderation.
It's moderation.
I teach that to my patients and to my clients. And, even though I might have a plant-based lifestyle, I don't come at them from that perspective. I meet you where you are in life, because if I try to force you to do something, you're going to fail. I don't even you get those patients that are gung-ho about doing it. I'm the same way with them. It's not a fast thing. This isn't a race. You didn't get this way overnight, so it's not going to change overnight. If I allow you to push yourself too hard, then what's going to happen is, when you get those cravings and when you get those withdrawals, then you're going to want to eat more than you did before.
Right. Because I never would have thought, and it was gradual, and that's the thing I liked about having a health coach. It was a gradual change, and not all of this sudden give up meat, give up dairy. Because I talked to a couple of coaches before I found the one that I used, and they started right in on, you got to change what you eat. Well, that I know, but what are some of my triggers? How can I do this, by changing just an afternoon snack, increasing what I was doing. I never thought I'd gone from eating now something called Just Eggs, which is a plant-based egg.
Yep, I know what Just Eggs are.
You could not have told me this 6 months ago.
No, believe it or not, most of us, and I'm going to say it like this, African Americans have a lot of emotional triggers around food. We have been told, clean your plate, be thankful for what you have, because there are kids in Africa who don't have that. You have to eat everything. Oh my God, look at how much food you have on your plate. These are the things that we grow up hearing, not understanding that these are emotional triggers. Not to disclose, but I actually had a girl, I was on her podcast, and she was talking to me, and she said that, as a young girl, her parents had said something to her one time about what was on her plate. And she didn't realize until she was older that she didn't like to eat in front of people. And that was an emotional trigger. We eat our emotions, we eat our feelings, and you got a lot of people that don't understand that we actually do that. So when it comes to eating, that's the first thing we tackle, is what's the underlying issue behind why you're doing what you're doing. It's no different from any other addiction, any other issue that you may have, but it's definitely something under that's making you it could be your job. It doesn't have to be something from your childhood. It could be your job. It could be stress of your everyday life. Write down in your food journal exactly how you're feeling when you are craving that sweet item, or when you're putting that donut in your mouth. What are you feeling at that moment?
And that's why I ended up choosing my health coach, Diane Chisholm. Shout out to her here in Jacksonville, because I had talked to a couple of people, and their approach was stop eating this, stop eating that. And she started just what you said. Let's look at this emotion, what's going on in your life.
Well,
Why
Diane
eat
sounds like
what
somebody I'm gonna like, so you might want to give her my info and tell her I want to have her on my show too.
I will. She was just as calm, and it was 3 months before we started even this eating stuff. It was weekly, it was talking through as to what was going on. And so that was a big help. So in fact, now I'm doing a master cleanse.
Go ahead now, look at you.
Who would have thought 6 months ago, you'd have told me I would do this. So got through the public health service, retired in 2013. So got through and now here's another thing about the public health service. They're really big on people and what you know.
Okay.
In health professions, because with all the joints that I've had replaced, when I talk to people in the other services, they go, if you had one joint replaced in the Army, you would be medically discharged,
Yeah.
But with the public health service, to us, they say, as long as you're good from the neck up.
Yeah, because it's not about your physical activity. As long as your brain works. Yeah.
So,
as long as your brain is functional, you should be fine. Yes.
When I got out and went to the VA to apply for my disability check, and I had this whole list of things, it took a while, it took years, because they couldn't figure out, was she really in the military with all of these issues that we now have to pay, because, joint replacements and this, that, and the other.
Yeah, so, they like, what did you do in the military, and why weren't you discharged years ago? Why are we just now having to pay for this?
Exactly. In fact, they still didn't want me to go. I was on 5 years temporary release from the military, temporary medical.
They said they wouldn't letting you go. You were too good of an asset for the government to give up.
5 years. And at the end of 5 years, which was 2018, I thought, okay, well, it'll be permanent, medical discharge. And do you know, when I called in, she said, oh yeah, we were just about to call you to prepare your paperwork to come back. And this was for 2017. I don't like paperwork to come back. Do you know how old I am and all my issues? She said, as long as you're good from the neck up, you can roll yourself in here. So I had to get my doctors, and they look at my paperwork to say that I was not able to be deployed.
Okay.
So that's how I ended up. I just got separated in 2018 from the military. They wanted for me to come back.
No, see, okay, now the public health, they gonna work you for the rest of your life then. That's what they telling you.
In fact, people who were due to retire this year, they canceled those retirements, and if you retired in the last 6 months, you get pulled back in. So you're not going anywhere. So,
no. Okay.
But retiring in 2013, that's when I came out and I started my business, Be Connected. You'll find out more about that. And I used the bee because a bee, was not supposed to be able to fly because his wings are so small.
Yes.
So that became so symbolic to me that what I was able to accomplish during my career. I mean, I worked for a United States Senator. I've worked in the highest levels when I was in the public health service. I worked in the Office of the Secretary of Defense, in the Office of Health Affairs. I worked in the Office of the Secretary of Health in their emergency preparedness department. So I traveled to China in 2000 as a delegation with other women. This is when China had favorite nation status, I guess you kind of say so. But I had a chance to visit China, and that was important in my life because while in China, we got to visit the terracotta warriors. And if you remember, there are things there that are 4,000 and 5,000 years older than Christ. And so you're looking at this stuff, and it made me realize that we are only here, and to all your listeners, for a finite period of time.
Yes.
Don't waste time being unhappy and negative. Look at the glass as not half empty, but it's half full. So one of the things I talk about in my book is you take that negativity and turn it into a positive. Being angry and upset impacts you two ways, psychologically and physiologically. Because if you think about when you're angry and upset, your blood pressure's up, your heart is pumping, So if you would just, and it's hard, I'm not saying you won't ever do it again, but if you can take that energy and say, you know what, I'm not going to let that person or this situation ever do this or put me in this situation again. How can I learn from this and turn it around? So take that negativity, take the things that have happened in your life and turn them into a positive, because we're only on this earth. If you see, the 6-year-old that died from COVID, the 9-year-old that died from COVID, people dying in car crashes, etc. Make the most of your finite, because 4,000 years from now, people will look back and say, well, what did that person do in their lifetime?
Did you know that the average person carries around 5 to 20 pounds of fecal matter in their intestines, depending on their diet? Some people are walking around feeling sluggish, constipated, unable to lose weight, skin issues, and allergies, all because of the toxins that are in their intestines. Listen, life gives us enough battles to fight. Your health shouldn't be one of those. If you change your mindset on how you actually view food, you will never have to worry about your health or weight again. I'm Ashley, owner of She Loves Wellness. I help people transition into a healthy lifestyle. I offer tips, recipe, and supplement kits to jumpstart your lifestyle change. Visit me on Facebook and IG at She Loves Wellness for your product information and samples. Don't forget, it's not a diet, it's a lifestyle change.
So yeah, the trip to China changed my life, made me look at things differently. One of the things we talk about in the book, once I got out of the military and retired and I started my businesses, was I wanted to, my logo is the be connected.
Yes.
Because we wanted to connect businesses, education, and enterprise solutions. We wanted to provide people with some of the knowledge, skills, and techniques that I learned during the years. I wanted to share that with others. So hence the name Be Connected, so that we can help everybody who thinks they can't do it or can't achieve it.
I I went to your website. I love your logo. I love everything about your business. Yeah, like I'm really big into nature, so bees and sunflowers and things like that really speak to me. So when I saw that, because when I first saw your interview questionnaire and it said "Be Connected," I was like, oh, I want to know what that means.
Right.
Yeah. And then when I went on there, I said, oh, you know what? I'm going to be utilizing some of her services.
Right. We do a variety of things. And one of the things we're doing now is, as I've become older, is how do we protect our assets and create a generational wealth or legacy for our family?
Yes.
And so I wanted to share, because if I had, knew this earlier, so we help people set up private family trust, private business trust, and private foundations, which differ from wills. Wills and simple trust help to disperse your assets once you're dead. So I call them D&D, disperse when deceased. And we show people how to use and set up a complex trust, which is how you can put your assets into your trust. You can control your assets now while you're living, and set them up and structure them so that they continue to produce wealth for your children and your children's children. So that's what we're now doing with Be Connected.
See, we have to get more into passing that type of information down generation after generation, so that we put our families and ourselves in a position to where we set up actual, trust for our entire family. It's not a situation of setting up a GoFundMe for a funeral. It's a situation of, when you turn 18, this is the amount of money that is going to be allotted to you for a future. Yeah.
Right. And so it's putting your money in the correct tax position. See, they don't talk about this in school. They don't teach us this. And our educational system is set up so that we will always be worker bees and W-2ers.
Yes, no, we're not going to be worker bees. We're all queen bees.
And so Be Connected. I want to get the word out, because the company that I found this out from usually work with companies or individuals who have 10 million in assets and above. And I'm like, but wait a minute, what about us, the other people working in schools and Walmarts, et cetera?
We need this information too.
Information. So we've come up with a way that on Be Connected, and you'll get the information. You set up the appointment, and we do, the interview with you and see what your needs are, and then we structure something to help your family. One of the things Nelson Rockefeller said: own nothing and control everything. Now,
Yes.
we've been taught all our life to own stuff.
We were told that we needed to own a house. We need to own a car. We need to own everything. Everything needs to be in our name.
Right. And here's the thing. Liability follows title. So if it's in your name, you can be taxed on it, and it can be taken away. So the reason the Rockefellers and the Gates and the et cetera are where they are is that everything has been moved to their trust. Bill Gates owns nothing. So when they say he's a billionaire, no, he's not. He controls billions, but he doesn't own anything. You have never heard anybody suing him lately. When he first started out, he was always getting sued, and the IRS is behind him.
Well, they can't sue nobody who don't have anything.
That's right. Put everything in your trust. So I set up my private family trust, and I put my life insurance policies and other assets into that trust so that it would be there for my daughter and son who my successor trustees, and then my grandkids. So that's one of the things, I want to educate people about, is how to protect your assets and structure your legacy.
Now, do you do workshops and classes? How do you set up services with Be Connected? Is it a one-on-one coaching program?
It's a one-on-one. If you go to the site, you set up an appointment. It's very easy now. Set up an appointment, and I'll do a Zoom call with you. There's some information that you sent to educate you about what a trust is, how it differs from a will, how it differs from a simple trust, what's a grantor, what's a creator, what you can and cannot put into your trust, and how it works. Usually we're used to seeing the 1040, but when you have a trust, you fill out the 1041. See, they don't teach us about that. So those are the things that we talk about. So if you go to Be Connected, you can set up an appointment, and it's a free consultation that we do with you on that call. So that's how you get started, and we do the education piece. Yes.
Okay, and then what else do you guys do over at Be Connected? I know you set up with financials. Do you help people with business formation, or do you connect other businesses with each other so that they can actually, support and assist each other as well?
Correct. One of the things we do, that once you come to us, if you're not at the point where you have an LLC or corporation that is ready for a business trust, but you're saying, I have a business idea, we have a program called Executive Leadership Mentoring Services, which is just starting, because that's what we found, was that people were coming to us. They may have been running a little business, but it didn't have the right formation. It wasn't legal set up correctly. So we're now providing them with this education piece on how to get yourself structured properly, so that you can then set up your trust. Because what happens if you're an LLC, you make your trust a member and you put your income to the trust, rather than the money sitting in your LLC and somebody comes and sues you and take everything. So yes, we help those who are ready, and we have people along the spectrum from just starting out to ready to set up a business trust, family trust, and 2 foundations. But we're here to help, and I'm here, and I want to help the everyday people, because that's what I am. I'm everyday people.
Okay, aren't we all?
Get financially educated, become financially educated.
All right. Now, what else? What other services outside of you said the Executive Leadership Mentoring Program, and then you said you guys have a starting out program for people who had just started their businesses. Do you work with nonprofits or just for-profit companies?
We do both. And I used to do a training on nonprofits for people who, again, coming from the government sector, there are a lot of people who say, I want to set up a nonprofit. And so I was doing that, and I still do that if you have a nonprofit and you need a board training, et cetera. But this is what I now say to people. You can set up a public foundation, 501c3, or a private foundation with a 501c3. The public foundation, you have a board, et cetera. The private foundation, you're the trustee, and you have to you do the community good. In a public nonprofit, if you say you're going to only serve young women age such and such, or you're only going to serve boys or seniors, that's all you can do. And the decision making is done by your board. If you set up a private foundation, you are the trustee, you make the decisions, you can serve women today, men tomorrow, children the day after, as long as it's the community good. So you have a lot more leeway with a private 501c3 foundation. So when people are coming to me now, and a lot of people are coming thinking, I'm going to set up a nonprofit so I can get some government money. That's not happening anymore. So if you're about service to the community at the same time providing for your family, the way to go would be a private family foundation.
Yeah. So I hope you guys heard that. For those of you who are out here setting up these nonprofits or attempting to set up nonprofits, if you're not doing it from the heart and not doing it to serve the right reasons, then don't do it at all, because it's not working anymore. The government is hip to that game, okay? Those of you that are doing it from the heart and doing it from the right reason, we know heart stories and heart strings change. So I hope you wrote down exactly what she said. I wrote it down as well. Setting up a private foundation gives you a little bit more flexibility than setting up a public foundation. Setting up a public foundation, you actually, whatever you set your goals or your mission to be is what you have to follow. So just, rewind this back on Spotify, whatever you listening to it on, and listen to Dr. Gail tell you again how to set that up. Because I don't know if you all are listening and taking notes, but she just dropped some real huge nuggets of wisdom for us.
And it was funny because I would provide consultation to people about a nonprofit. And at the end I say, now, ask me, do I have a nonprofit? So
exactly.
Because people would come to me and say, oh, there's free government money. And I'm like, well, first of all, if there was free government money, everybody in my family would know about it. I would have it. I would be doing the same thing. So there's no such thing as free government money. What they're saying is if you get a grant, it does not have to be paid back. But
but that's not free.
That's not free.
You working.
You have to work hard.
You got to work for that. That is not free money.
And the accountability, I have been on the other side of those grants. The accountability is, And
if you don't do it, you will go to jail. Just so you know.
Go to jail. So that's not anything to play with. So if you want to do the community good, set up a private foundation in which you can still get all the grants, all the donations, the same thing. The reporting requirements is less, because with a trust, by the way, yes, you pay taxes, but because we set up a series of interrelated tax trusts, you want to pay as few taxes as possible. And your form, guess where it goes? It's called the exempt organizations sections of the IRS. It's not a collection body. They don't go in detail, well, let's see these receipts like you have to do with your W-2 right now and your Schedule A and have receipts and et cetera, or your Schedule C. It's a whole different world that no one has told us about. If you've watched Hamilton, I know a lot of people have, and I know we have to move on. If you go back and watch Hamilton and watch the discussion that George Washington sets up between Alexander Hamilton, my great ancestor, and Jefferson, when they're talking about establishing the banking system in the United States.
Yes.
And they set up a system so that we will always be subservient to them. You may have a mortgage right now. You don't own the house. And if you ever do that, you don't own the land. We will never own anything. And when they set this bank up in the 1800s, and I forget the guys that's in my presentation said, they're going to wake up with this new banking system. They're going to wake up and find themselves homeless on their own continent.
Yep.
That's where we are right now. We don't own anything.
Exactly where we are right now.
And that was in the 1800s when they set this up. So that's one of the things we do is this financial education for people. You have to be financially well.
Wow. Well, I want to wrap up my interview today with Dr. Gail, and I want to ask you just a few more questions. I want to know, what do you wish you'd known 10 years ago that you actually know now?
To listen to people who was trying to provide me directions, because people will provide you advice and we don't always take it. We think they have an ulterior motive. And one of the things in mentoring and in lessons is find someone who's 10, 15, 20 years older than you to be a mentee, because they've been there, done that. They're at the position you are trying to make a decision, and they've already been down that road. So listen to them. And I know a lot of people, especially people don't want to listen to their parents, but find someone who's been down that road or where you want to go and ask them their story, because they can tell you, my road wasn't easy. I made some missteps, but I learned from them. So that's what I would tell myself. It would have saved me some money, some time, some heartache if I had at least considered advice other people were giving me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good idea, because I probably need to take that up myself. No. But the crazy part about it is I'm usually the youngest person in the room. But just like you said, when you went to work at Bell South, it was people older than you working up under you. So
Right.
I find myself in those situations. I actually just told my girlfriend the other day, I said, you know what? I got to find better rooms to be in, because I'm starting to be the smartest person in these rooms.
Well, one of my quotes is, when you sit at a table with winners, the conversation is different.
Yeah.
If you want to level up, you got to change tables.
Yeah. So
You
yeah.
can't stay in your same cohort and take advice from your cohort. They
Yeah.
haven't been through it.
Yeah, they don't know.
They don't
And
know.
the crazy part is, I'm looking at my tables, and I'm sitting at my tables, and they looking at me like,
Right.
like, are you gonna give me the info? What
Right.
did you learn today?
So we had shirts that said, when you sit at the table with winners, and I think now we're going to change it to, when you need to change tables. It's time to change.
Yeah, I want. It's time to change tables. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, what makes you feel inspired or feel like your best self?
When I look at my kids and my grandkids, and it's funny because my daughter Danielle, I have a 8-year-old grandson and a 9-month-old granddaughter. And she'll call me on Messenger, and all I will see will be the baby's face or Kaysen's face. It's like, okay, what do you want? What do you need? And she said, your whole voice changes when you see them on the phone. Your whole demeanor, your whole, So that's my inspiration now. And the fact that I can too help somebody else.
Yes.
Because there are people who call me and ask me for advice, and that makes me feel good. Now, my kids don't want to listen to it sometimes, but other people, strangers, will call and say, what do you think about such and such?
Well, that's good, but you have a wealth of knowledge that you could pass down to generations and generations of people. You worked in some really tough industries. You've actually lived through some really hard times. So, I'm, as a matter of fact, when we end this conversation, I'm going to give you my cell phone number and say, hey, text me, because I need to talk to you personally.
Okay. And I love it. I love it.
Now, let me ask you this. If you could have a billboard with anything on it, what would it say and why?
And it would be a message to other people is, do the most that you can, do the most good. And I think I've heard this somewhere, is do the most that you can and be the best you. Don't let other people define you. Find what you love to do. Figure out a way to work that and be successful at it in whatever you do and whatever job you're at. Look at the positive. I've been in places, in grocery stores, department stores, business meetings, where people come in with such negativity and wonder why they're unhappy. You have to be here 8 hours. The best training in the world. If you've ever gone to Disney World, I've never met an unhappy employee at Disney World. They have the best training in the world.
Yes,
So
they do.
If you have to be here, why are we arguing at Walmart? It's not the cure for cancer. So I don't understand. People are attributing too much in the wrong place. Save that time and energy to Go home and play with your kids, or help your kids understand their homework. Why are we arguing with people out in stores? And
you know what I tell people? Stop focusing on those small things. Why don't you take that energy and create a business, something that's going to be long, that's going to be leave a legacy for your children, and also it's going to inspire your children to go out and get their own as well. So stop focusing on all of that, being
all
in the
other little things.
Yeah, it's
about the terracotta warriors, and that's one of the things I do when I work with people. I give them a little replica of the terracotta warrior, and I said, this person lived 5,000 years ago. One of these days you're going to be there, and what will people say about you? This is how, a grain of sand. So I do have one friend, Beryl Eve, and she actually works, with at Baylor, and she's a microbiologist and stuff. And so she's the only person that gets a pass that can complain. They're working on a cure for cancer. Everybody else, it's a clipboard job.
Yeah, like, no, yeah, she can complain. I sit and listen to her complain all day long and tell her, I want to look, you got a bunch of people around you that I want to get on my podcast. So go ahead and tell her too that I want to talk to her too.
Oh, she would love it. She would love it.
Yes, absolutely.
And her story is she came from the Bahamas at 18 on an athletic scholarship to TSU. She didn't know anybody here. She was new to America. And so she's become a success story. And even in terms of this race stuff, she said, I didn't grow up with that in the Bahamas. So when I got here and faced it at TSU, Texas Southern, and in Houston.
Wow. She went from the Bahamas to Texas.
At 18 and didn't know anybody. And we met her because her sister married a friend of ours. And we met, and she said, I'm going to the United States. But where are you going? Houston. I said, oh, we're from Houston. So we've been friends with her for almost 40 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, I love it. Well, Dr. Gail, I want to thank you so much for being on the 10 Dimensions of Wellness. You have just poured out a wealth of knowledge and information for our listeners. We're going to have to bring you back on, and next time we'll bring you back on so you can give us more financial tips and talk to us more about some of the ways that we can become more financially savvy, and also ways that we can set up a legacy for future generations for ourselves, because that is definitely, we want to be connected in that type of way.
Yes, and if I seem to be all over the place, it was like I was trying to cram everything in. So
no, this is awesome. Like, I'm in love with your entire journey, your story. I am so grateful that you were on today's show. Now, guys, you can hear our show on Spotify, Pandora, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. We are everywhere, and you can also check out our YouTube channel, NRI Wellness. And don't forget to log on to our website, nriwellness.com, where we post articles about our guests. And we also post all of their links and information, as well as a link to the show so that you guys can contact them, listen to the show again. And I promise you, the article has absolutely nothing to do with the show. So what you heard on today's show is different from the article. So make sure you check out the article too, because there are nuggets and tidbits in there as well. So again, thank you for joining us on the 10 Dimensions of Wellness, and you guys have a great night.